The scripture today is from Hinduism, Chandogya Upanishad 687. That which is the finest essence, this whole world has that as its soul. That is the reality. That is the self. That art thou. So ends the reading. 2 weeks ago, I gave a sermon on the Epiphany. One premise was that people frequently have small, unnoticed epiphanies. An epiphany is a moment when our intuition gives us a nudge, gives us that little nudge in one direction or another. It can be difficult to explain and prove how these moments of intuition originate. Bringing clarity to phenomena that is outside of the physical realm is challenging. We live most of our lives with our consciousness in the physical. By necessity, we direct most of our attention to taking care of our immediate primary needs, such as eating, sleeping, and getting work done. In the consciousness of our daily to-do list, the concept of our soul, or the recognition of our connection to a higher power, can feel fleeting at best. Today's sermon is on divine metaphysics. The Webster Dictionary defines metaphysics as the philosophical study of the ultimate causes and underlying nature of things. In seminary, we use a book by Manly Hall, who writes, the study of the visible universe is called physics, and the study of the invisible universe is called metaphysics. Metaphysics includes such things as the nature of being, the nature of God, the nature of knowledge, the nature of truth, of energy, of creation. And interestingly, the nature of divine and human relationships. Metaphysical topics, being defined as unseen, can be hard to get your arms around and are subject to all of our personal interpretations. In the study of metaphysics, one of the books that I continually refer to is the Kabbalion. The Kabbalion is a book that summarizes the Hermetic teachings of the ancient Egyptian mystery schools. Hermes Trismegistus is said to have originated and taught the Hermetic principles. Some writers say that Hermes was a contemporary of Abraham. He was revered in his time for his wisdom and earned the name Trismegistus, or 3 times great. Hermetic principles were practiced thousands of years before Jesus. And many scholars believe that Jesus spent several years in Egypt studying in the mystery schools. The Kabbalion states that there are 7 principles that explain the way the universe operates, and that people can learn to use these principles to their advantage. A quick summation of the philosophy of Hermeticism. The universe is mental. The 7 Hermetic principles give us an understanding that allows us to modify and transform our states of minds and emotions. Today, I'll touch quickly on all 7 principles and delve into more detail on a few of them. These principles were formulated approximately 6,000 years ago. You'll recognize similar ideas in your study of many religions and spiritual thinkers. The principles are taught as a philosophy, which to the Hermetics means the inquiry after knowledge of things knowable and thinkable. To eliminate any confusion between a secular philosophy and any specific religion, they do not refer to God in their philosophy. The all is the Hermetic term for the substantial reality of the universe, for the infinite intelligence of the universe. The first Hermetic principle, the all is mind, the universe is mental. Restated, the substantial reality of the universe is mental. The concept of the all can be compared to the concept of an omnipotent, all-knowing God. But as I said, they just don't want to use the term so it doesn't become religious. The Kabbalion's first principle is very similar to the United Metaphysical Church's first principle, which is we believe in God as infinite intelligence. with infinite intelligence defined as all phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, physical and unseen. Repeating the first principle, the all is mind, the universe is mental. The second principle of the Kabbalion is correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. This principle expresses there is always a correspondence between the different planes of life. There are planes of energy beyond our knowing, but when we apply the principle of correspondence, we can understand much that would otherwise be unknowable. This principle, as above, so below, expresses the same logic as a part of the Lord's Prayer. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. As below, so above. As above, so below. As on earth as it is in heaven. The all, infinite intelligence, is omnipresent and applies on all planes of energy. Examples of planes of energy are the physical planes, the mental planes, and the spiritual planes. These first two principles of the Kabbalion, everything is mental, and as above, so below, may not feel scientific, but more philosophic. The third through the seventh principles help build a foundation that supports these first two broad principles. The third principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Thousands of years ago, the masters of ancient Egypt understood what modern science has proven. Everything is made of atoms, and the only difference in anything in the universe is the rate of vibration. The electrons and protons of the atoms are always moving, no matter how still something looks. Everything's moving. With varying the amount of energy, we can increase or decrease this rate of vibration. The rate of vibration is the determining factor on which plane and which subdivision of a plane anything in the universe occupies. Water is a very simple example on the physical plane. We slow down the vibration of water, it will freeze. We increase the vibration, it'll vaporize. In all the various states of water, be it solid, liquid, or gas, the atoms are still water, but the atoms are vibrating at different rates. The states of water as either ice, liquid, or gas are all identical in nature. This is important, identical in nature, but vary according to the amount of energy affecting the atoms. This principle of vibration applies to everything in the universe, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Vibration applies to the way we think, we feel, our openness to intuition, our openness to epiphanies. We have all heard the expression, he is a hothead or he is a cold fish. Vibration affects everything in the universe. The fourth principle, the principle of polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pairs of opposite. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. Again, we can use water as an example. On one end of the spectrum, it's a solid. On the other end, it's a gas. Everything has its pair of opposites. We can use the emotional example of love and hate. The spectrum runs from, we might say, from love to I like, to I don't care, to I kind of don't like, to I hate. There's just a spectrum. It's all the way you feel about someone, but it can run from love to hate, with countless variations in between. Everything in life has an opposite that is identical in nature. These spectrums are items that are identical in nature but different in degree. Some examples, rich and poor, light and dark, happy and sad, hot and cold. Everything has an opposite. The fifth principle, the principle of rhythm. The principle of rhythm works hand in hand with that fourth principle of polarity. Everything has an opposite. The fifth principle read, everything flows out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. The The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm will compensate. We know in our own lives that our relationships, our mental attitudes, our health do not stay constant, but flow in a rhythm from pole to pole. The time interval of the swing can be minutes, hours, days, years, or even lifetimes. Some of our karma takes lifetimes to clear. Our moods and our level of enthusiasm are examples of ways of being that constantly change, and the swing in our states of mind can be difficult to understand. The activities, thoughts, and emotions of individuals are subject to the fifth principle, the law of rhythm. Events in our lives will cause the swing between the poles. But being aware of the other Hermetic principles, a person can use those other principles to modify or mitigate the effect of the principle of rhythm on your emotions. We can alter the natural flow of our emotions from swinging to the extremes of the poles. We have heard of alchemy and the legendary search for the way to change base metals to gold. In the Kabbalah, alchemy is defined as mental alchemy, learning to have some control over the natural rhythms of life. The teaching is that using our mental power, one can learn to override the natural rhythm of the swing between poles, and you can learn to master these techniques. The sixth principle, cause and effect. Every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to the law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. Everything has a cause and effect. There are no miracles. There are causes and effects that we do not understand. An example is gravity. We know gravity exists, but we don't understand how it works. Every action and every thought you have has an effect, even if you are not aware of it. We might envision everyone here as your own planet, creating your own gravity of thoughts, emotions, and presence. There is always a cause and effect to everything. The seventh principle, the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principle. Gender manifests on all planes. This principle is referring to the phenomena of generation, regeneration, and creation at all levels. The all created the universe. In a similar manner, but on a lower level of energy, we create in our own planes of existence, as above, so below. Generation and regeneration working at all levels. In the book From Bacteria to Bach and Back, The Evolution of the Mind, the author Daniel Dennett refers to the ability of memes to reproduce culturally and not genetically. Memes spread copies of themselves in the minds of the host. How many here have used a meme in the last week? I mean, all of us, it's part of our society now. He's saying they actually regenerate themselves. Songs and phrases can do the same thing. The author suggests words may be parasitically occupying human brains to further their own reproductive goals. Don't start thinking about your favorite Beatles song. It'll just stick there. Today, a lot of attention is focused on the influencers. An 8-year-old playing with toys can have millions of followers. What is the effect on society and individuals from constantly being exposed to social media? An idea, picture, or value that is continually present will have an effect on the individual and by extension, society. The effects can be beneficial or detrimental. The principle of gender, regeneration, manifest on all planes of energy. I now want to circle back into more detail on the fourth and fifth principles, the principles of polarity and rhythm. Polarity, everything is dual, everything has its poles, everything has its pair of opposites, Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. And then the principle of rhythm, everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. Our moods, our relationships, our energy level, our mental and physical capacities are all subject to these two principles, polarity and rhythm. Our mood may change every minute. Our energy level may be recharged each week with a weekend break, or each year with a vacation. Our relationships may subtly change with children, with career changes, and personal interest. Our physical and mental capabilities may peak in midlife and slowly weaken with age. An example of polarity and rhythm are the seasons of the year. We have no control over the seasons, but in the winter, we can dress warmly and control the effect that the weather has on us. In the summer, we dress with clothes designed for the hot weather. We can modify the effect the weather has on us. The principles of polarity and rhythm are givens in life. The Kabbalion teaches that we can recognize these patterns and use the other principles to avoid the natural swings between the poles. These principles can be used in the same manner as we dress warmly in the winter. Let's use the example of a pendulum to visualize the principles of polarity and rhythm and their effects on our lives. Imagine a pendulum. I just happen to have one right here. I just happen to have it. Just imagine a pendulum. And imagine it's right about up here, and it can swing back and forth. And the swing to the left is equal to the swing to the right. This is just an analogy of how they feel the Hermetic principles work. This pendulum constantly swings back and forth, be it a very small swing or a large swing. Our emotions, we know our emotions can go a little bit big. Notice that the distance as it swings back and forth is much greater at the bottom. The arc is much greater at the bottom than it is at the top. Many of you are familiar with the concept of chakra energies, the chakra energy centers in our body. The analogy is that the location on the pendulum corresponds to the energy of the chakra center it is close to. The chakra energy centers being the top of your head is consciousness and understanding. Your forehead, intuition. Your throat, communication, creativity. Your heart, love and peace. The solar plexus, willpower. The sacrum, desire and sexuality. And the root, survival. If you're not familiar with the chakra system, you can relate to the idea of intuition near the mind, communication at the throat, love near the heart. Survival, you know how when you really get scared, if something really is going to threaten your life, you all of a sudden have strength. Your whole body is strong and you react quick. When your life is threatened, that pendulum, man, there's no thinking twice. We've all felt in our heart energies and known a broken heart. We know we can feel it physically. With that fear, we feel it lower in our body, in the lower chakras. The emotion of fear can have that great swing of energy. That survival instinct. When we understand these principles of polarities, everything has an opposite. Every swing of the pendulum has an opposite on the other side. There's always a natural movement between these poles. We begin to understand that swings and emotion are natural. But we also can recognize and control these swings. When things are going great, a new relationship or a great day at work, let your guard down and enjoy the emotion. When things are high and that's out here doing great, enjoy it. It's great. Allow the pendulum to swing to the good emotions. When you feel the pendulum beginning its inevitable swing back, What can we do to limit the negative or non-productive emotions? Remember, the universe is mental. We can mentally climb the pendulum. We climb the pendulum by raising our vibration so we don't have to experience the swing to the unwanted condition. We raise our vibration by concentrating on the mental and holding the attitude or thought that we want. We are utilizing the understanding of the Hermetic principles. The universe is mental. Everyone does this to some degree. We've learned that if we concentrate on work or a hobby, we can avoid the feeling of some of the stresses, disappointments, or hurts. We know watching movies, watching sports is an escape from the stresses in our life. We just take our attention to something else, and it relieves a lot of our problems. It's not a permanent fix, but it's a way to control. We're going to practice experiencing this in our meditation today, utilizing principles in the Hermetic principles. We're not trying to totally avoid stressor emotions. We know there's work to be done on things, but in a moment, learning to put on a coat in the winter. They are tools that allow us to moderate the effects of the natural swings between the extremes. Everything has its opposite. The principle of rhythm says there's a natural tendency to swing between the poles. Understanding this is a natural occurrence. There's nothing wrong with any of us. It's naturally, all of us swing. We have our up days and we have our down days. It's a natural thing, but we all know those people at work, or we have friends that seem to never show those down days. It's not that they don't have them. They've just learned to overcome. The principles in Kabbalion are also helpful in discerning concepts in other spiritual teachings and in other fields. When you think about some of the other teachings you've had, they start coming together when you think of those principles. It's one of those books I have on my nightstand. I mean, for 20 years, I pick it up and read a couple paragraphs. The understanding that the substantial reality of the universe is mental energy, that our finest essence is the same energy, and that each of us has the ability to direct and control this energy, opens the doors to our unlimited ability to affect our relationship with the universe, with others, and most importantly, with ourselves. Our energy is part and parcel of the universal energy, the all. When we raise or lower our energy, we can move between the varying planes. This explains our ability to experience epiphanies and moments of intuition that seem to come from nowhere. Studying, understanding, and applying metaphysical principles on a consistent basis, we can learn to live a more peaceful, joyful, and enlightened life. Blessings.